how to craft these characters, and you know, where does that come from?
Yeah, I think for me, strangely, usually it's kind of a mix of characters or plot that comes first. But with this one, it was really plot. Like I was just sitting around one day because I knew I wanted to write a middle grade, but I had you know, like 3 or 4 YAs. I think I had 3 YAs out at the time and one on the way. And so I was like, I would love to write middle grade, but I like don't know exactly how to what I would write about. And like my YA is kind of like your YA. It's like kind of edgy and gritty. And so I was like,
Yeah.
what do I do? So I was just thinking, like, what if you were the only like 12-year-old black girl in your town, and then like another girl, black girl your age, moved in right across the street? And I was like,
Right.
first of all, that would be a dream. That
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
absolutely like a dream for me. And then I texted one of my friends who writes middle grade, and I was like, has anyone like done that? And she was like, I don't think anyone's written that. And so I was like, I guess I'll try. So it sort of came out of that. But then I knew that I wanted to write about girls, I think black girls that don't get the kind of recognition on the page that they should. So just sort of like, you know, Alberta and her dads are vegetarians. Like, I'm a vegetarian. She surfs. I do not surf. I can barely swim, even after like many years of swimming lessons in elementary school. I like cannot swim, especially not in the ocean. But I wanted to write about girls who just kind of don't get seen, like black goth girls. So I knew that I wanted their personalities to be kind of strong in that way, and sort of opposing, but also complementing each other, because you still do end up having a lot in common generally with someone, you know, from your ethnicity or background.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People are going through something that only, you know, someone who shares that understands in a way that no one else understands. And so much of your identity, I feel like, is almost stolen from you when you're the only person of your kind in a town, you know, because you're so forced as a kid. You're just like so aware that you're different. I mean, at least I was so aware of this. And I found myself almost, number one, wanting to be white, but also like trying to be white, which was just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that same experience. I did. I remember like tying like the towel around my head to like try to get like, you know, long straight hair as a kid, and just really like wishing, because for me hair was kind of the big thing, where no one understood my hair, and I was straightening my hair at the time because, you know, my mom just kind of wanted me to assimilate. And
like the things that we do, right? Like the things that we do. I remember putting on like a lot of sunscreen at one point, and just you know, like trying to figure out like, or just like trying to figure out what can I do with my eyes, like is there anything. It was just weird. And then, you know, of course later on in high school, having boys go, wow, you look so, you're like, because you're Asian and I've never been with an Asian girl, so like this is so exciting. And I'm like, I'm not here to be, you know,
right, like you're like so exotic,
a bucket list item for you, you know.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, so okay, let's back up for a second, because you'd written so many amazing YAs. I mean, they're award-winning, multiple star YAs. And when did you decide I really want to write middle grade? Like, how did that decision come about? And was that scary for you?
Yeah, you know, I've been thinking about this because I get a lot of questions after you write so many YA books. I think no one really expects you to like switch over.
And by the way, that is, now that I've written YA, that is so hard. Like, I don't know how you,
I did the same about middle grade, so
what you
I was
did.
like,
and it was like, you were cranking them out. There was like one a year. I think there was like, are there like 2 this year or something? I feel like there's like a whole bunch.
There's 2 books this year, so the middle grade and then my next YA.
Yeah, but like, how do you do that? Because I mean, Parachutes for me, which I have right here, I'm going to show you.
It's wonderful.
It like took everything out of me. Like it took, I mean, I had to like go on a post Parachutes like retreat just to recover from Parachutes. And my editor now is like, oh, you got to get your next YA done. I'm like, like it took so much out of me to write this book. So how did you get one after another? And then how did you decide to do middle grade?
Right. It's intense. Well, I'm reading your book right now, your YA book, and it is so good, but it's like so dense. So I'm like, that will take a lot out of you.
Yeah.
Like, you need a little break. Yeah.
And it was dual perspective. So it was like writing 2 books and then having to revise 2 books 3 times. It was like writing, you know, that's like 6 books.
Absolutely. No, you did a lot of hard work on that book. Yeah, for me, I don't know, like the YA voice is really easy for me, which I don't know what that says about me, but it's really easy for me to drop into. I don't know. I think a lot of YA writers come at it from like they had a bad time in high school. I actually had a really great time despite like, you know, some of the hardships that we're talking about and some of the like not feeling like I belonged. Like I actually had like a really great group of friends. I was really involved. I like hung out with the popular crowd, you know. So looking back on high school, it was actually a really good experience. And I think that's why I can kind of like dip back into that. And I don't know, it's so easy for me to jump into that voice. But like middle grade, I feel like the younger you go, the harder it is for me. So I've been trying to write a picture book for like 2 years now.
Oh my God, picture books are so hard, guys. Okay, readers out there, writers out there, like honestly, a lot of people think that they can do a picture book. In my opinion, a picture book is the hardest.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. It's so hard. And you have to constantly match the words with the picture in your head. And it's like, oh my God. And then you have to really condense that story down to like 300 words.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
page turns.
It's too hard. It's too hard.
I know.
Because I think that you and I love complicated stories.
Yes.
You know, so we love complicated characters and we love getting the chance to explore those characters. And that all takes, number one, work. And also it takes those words. Like we got to have those words.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like, I don't know, I think once I started teaching in Hamlin University's MFA program in writing for children, I feel like that was when I started to really see like, oh, I could probably like try these other things and try to write a middle grade. And so I started reading a lot more middle grade, probably maybe like 2 years ago or so. And once I start really like digging into something and reading something, I'm like, I want to try that too.
Yeah.
So there's just so much great middle grade, even like yours. I remember reading yours and being like, yes, like this is what middle grade should be. Like I love Front Desk so much.
Thank you. What do you love about middle grade? Like what do you feel like you get to do in middle grade that you can't do in YA?
I think like there's just sort of, you know, my girls are 12 in my book, so they're definitely going through like some fraught experiences, like, you know, right before
puberty,
seventh grade, exactly, like periods and all that stuff. But I think for me, like it's kind of a gentler time. Like you don't really have like that freedom to just run off with your friends and drive off in your car, or get on the subway or whatever.
Right.
But and you're also still sort of like hanging out with your family a lot, and you know, they're still making decisions for you in some way. So I feel like it was kind of that like feel that was different.
Yeah,
me
too. I love the innocence of middle grade. That's like so much fun for me. You know, you can take a hard issue, but with a middle grade book, you can still insert the humor and you can insert all these like ridiculous, like hysterical scenes that lighten it, and it makes it so, I don't know, so heartwarming. I love that. I have 3 kids who are middle grade ages, although my oldest is becoming very much a teenager. It's so annoying.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. It's like every day, especially sheltering in place with him. Oh my God. Like I deserve like a medal after this. Okay. I want like, I'm going to get myself an actual trophy. Like I have survived sheltering in place with my teenage son.
First teenager. Yes. Oh my gosh.
So for me, like what I liked about YA was I like the fact that they could, you know, they were more complicated, that they could handle more, you know, harsh stuff thrown at them, but the way they were processing it was very different. And it was so freeing to write YA in that sense, you know, because I wasn't like forcing myself to constantly be a 10-year-old, which I feel like with middle grade, you have to force yourself to be a 10-year-old. And it's really fun to be a 10-year-old. Don't get me wrong. Like I love that. But it was also fun to just step into like a 17-year-old's shoes.
Yeah, I think so too. And like you said that thing about being funny, like I think that's one of the top things that I loved about writing middle grade. I was like, I get to be funny because I feel like my YA has like its funny moments, but there's so much like dark stuff and like emotions going on that people kind of skip over it. But I'm like, there are funny parts of that. Please laugh. It's just like you kind of got to just be straight up funny and silly and cute. But yeah, I noticed with your YA, it seemed like a very seamless transition for you. So were there particular parts that you found, because I know you said you found it a little harder, were there specific things about it?
You know what, the dual POV like almost killed me, you know, like I don't know why I know why I decided to do it. I know why I decided to do it, because I didn't just want to tell Claire's story, right? Like in Parachutes, Claire is a really privileged girl.
Yes.
She's coming from a lot of money, and that's really fun to write because she gets her mom's American Express card and she can just go wild, right? Because she doesn't have her parents around her. And so it's like every teenager's fantasy. But it wasn't my experience growing up. And I really liked writing both girls. Danny is, of course, more like me in that was a scholarship student. You know, parents are kind of struggling socioeconomically. And so that was really, really, you know, felt really authentic to me. I really liked writing Danny. And I just, because I loved those two and I thought that they balanced each other well, I refused to just pick one and go with it. But the decision to do both for a relatively new author like me was like, oh man, like it was intense. And you know, I thankfully had very patient editor. I had a very you know, Ben Rosenthal at Catherine Teagan is very, very great. He's amazing editor. But you know, I had to rewrite the book like 3 times or something. And when you rewrite a dual narrative, it is so much harder. Because when you like switch around the scenes, now every other scene from the other person is all off.
Yes.
You know, and so now you have to like rewrite everything. I didn't realize I was literally tearing my hair out.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. I have I'm just gonna show you my next YA called The Voting Booth.
Which is so great. It's such a timely topic. Oh my God, I can't wait. I hope to God that we're gonna have the virus situation sorted by then so that you'll get to go on tour. I mean, when is it coming out?
So it's out July 7th, and it's also dual point of view. And so I was thinking about what you said, and I'm just like, yeah, it's so hard. And I was thinking of those revisions, and I think it was maybe a little less difficult for me, maybe because they were like, I was male, female perspective, and like, I don't know, Claire and Danny's stories are so intertwined in like such an interesting way. Mine's just like set in a day, so it was like a little bit easier to rein that in. But yeah, dual POV
that's exciting. So the whole book is set in one day?
It's set in like 12 hours, yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
that is so great
for me. But
love that.
I love dual POV, and I think you really killed it. So I could not tell that you were tearing your hair out.
It felt that way for so long. I literally was telling everyone, I think this book is going to kill me. Like, I think it's going to say on my tombstone, like, died from writing a YA.
Who parachutes.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. You've got all these YAs. I mean, first of all, how do you generate the ideas for your YAs? I mean, because they're all so different. They're also complex. They're also riveting, you know, and it's like, it's incredible that you've been able to do that. What advice do you have for, you know, new authors or even just writers who are not yet published?
Right. Well, thank you for saying that, because sometimes I always say like, it's like a quiet story and people are like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, it's like really nothing's going on. And you're like, there's actually a lot going on in here. And I'm like, okay. Because I think for me, it's finding the heart of the character and just going, like kind of letting them lead the journey. Like, I feel like I'm always kind of terrible to talk about process because I don't outline.
You don't outline?
Okay. No.
You are a gardener as opposed to an architect. That's what Danielle Jose Older, who was on the show, would say. That you're gardening. When you garden, you're laying all these seeds and you'll see what flowers grow organically. I love it. I love it.
I like that a lot.
But you know, the thing is that process usually takes a lot longer, yet you've been able to crank out these books. So what's your secret, girl?
Yeah, I know. I wish I knew. I think I've just really been writing a long time. You know, that whole like Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours thing? Yeah. Like, I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I have been writing since I was 7, and I pretty much since I was 7 years old have always been working on a project. So I really think it's just that I've been writing so long. Once I was able to actually finish a book for publication, and then once, you know, books were under contract, of course you have to finish them, even if you're tearing your hair out, you're like, this book is going to kill me. Yeah. I think I've just had sort of a stockpile of ideas. I had 3 years between my first book came out in 2014, and then my second book, Little and Lion, didn't come out until 2017. Okay. And so I think those 3 years, even though I was working and I was working on other projects and like working on Little and Lion and trying to get it right to sell, I think maybe something kind of clicked and I just had sort of a stockpile of ideas. But also I'm just sort of able to look at like, okay, there's this girl I want to write about and what is she going through? And then it just kind of develops from there. I guess the garden grows from there.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. Do you usually write like the first few chapters and then send it to, we have the same agent, do you send it to Tina? Do you like write the whole thing out? Like what's your process that way?
Right. Wonderful Tina. So
I love Tina.
Usually she's the best, literal best.
She is the best. She's the best in the biz. I was gonna ask her if she wanted to do one of these shows. I know she's really busy, but I was gonna do a show like maybe on Friday where I talk about how to get an agent and all that, because I've been getting a lot of questions. But since we both have the same agent, we can talk a little bit about that. So when you write something, do you now that you're an established writer, so how does it work? Is it different?
It's a little bit different, and I've been with Tina for like almost a decade, which is really wild. She sold all my books, and so I think we have a really good working relationship in that she kind of knows what to expect from me. I know the things that she's going to tell me, like this isn't working, or like you need to dig deep. One of my things, she's gonna kill me if she's watching this or she hears about it, but she always tells me, she's like, there's too much food in this book. Like these characters are just talking about this food like they're all chefs or like foodies. And I'm like, but they are in my head, because all I want to do is talk about food and eat food.
Yeah. So I noticed that your favorite food is popcorn, or one of your favorite. I was watching a YouTube video. I love popcorn too.
Oh my God. I'm like, what is out there? I don't even remember that. But yes, popcorn is legit one of my favorite foods.
Popcorn is divine. I mean, you can never go wrong with popcorn.
You
can literally live on popcorn, and it's not even like bad for you.
That's what I was gonna say. And I like make it on the stove, so it's like good. And but she's always telling me that.
Oh my God, Tina's watching this.
Oh no, Tina, I'm talking about you and the food. Yeah, so I typically write about 50 to 60 pages when I'm working on something completely new. And I'll work it out for myself a little bit, but then after I get to a point where I'm like, I either can't do anything else on this, or I think it's ready, I will send it to Tina. And then she gives me her notes. And as you know, she's a very, very editorial agent, which I love, because I love sort of that additional check before it goes to the editor, because nothing bad is getting through Tina.
She keeps us from ruining our lives, is what you're saying. It's so true, right?
Yes, she keeps our careers in check. So I will send it to her, and then we'll go through, and she'll usually have some really helpful notes for me, and I'll just go through those and implement the notes, and sometimes we'll go back and forth a few rounds, and then once it's ready, I have sold every book since my first book. I've sold every book after that on proposal, which I know a lot of people don't like, because there's sort of that like, what if I write the book and they don't like it? But I think after working with the same editor for a while, or just someone knowing my editing and writing style, they can kind of understand, like I always say, I'm going to give you a good book, like no matter what.
Yeah. And, I promise it will happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I have some idea where it's going.
It's really funny. Yeah, I used to be of the camp that like I need to write the whole thing before we can sell it, because I was always worried that I wasn't going to be able to execute it. Like there was always this worry. I don't know if you have this. I've had this worry since I was like 5, like that I would lose it, like that I would go to sleep and wake up and not know how to write. Like I have this perpetual nightmare. I think that's why I'm always writing, because I'm like, I don't want to lose it. Like,
yeah, no, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I feel like every book I like literally will Google like, how do you write a book? Like,
that's the one thing that it's been consistent across all these interviews. I've now talked to like, I don't know how many authors on this show, and that is what every single person is saying, from from someone who's written 20 books to someone who's just written 1. I mean, literally everybody has the same feeling, which is like, and I think it comes down to like every story is different, and it's hard to unlock every story. Okay, so what is your, as an MFA, so we've had some questions about the MFA. A lot of people on the show have been asking, do we really need it? Is it important? What's your advice on that?
Okay, so I will say, I think I've talked about this publicly before, but not in a while. So when I decided, probably like 4 or 5 years after I decided I wanted to start writing for publication. So this was like 2005, 2006. I decided I wanted to start writing for publication, and really got serious about looking for an agent. Did not know anybody in the business at all, like nobody. So just did all this research on my own to try to figure it out. And then it wasn't going anywhere. I wrote 3 books, and like would get interest, but I was like, well, maybe I just need to go back to like go to school for this,
Right.
even though I'd been writing my whole life, and like reading, which I think is such an education, and just writing on your own is an
Yeah,
education.
totally.
And so I was like, I'll apply to MFA programs. And I applied to, I don't remember how many, I would say at least a handful. I got rejected from literally every single one except for one that put me on the wait list, and they were not providing like any sort of supplementary, like, you know, they wouldn't like let you teach to pay your tuition. So I was like, I'm not going to pay like thousands of dollars, take out loans, you know, to get an MFA. I'm just going to keep writing and reading and see if I can do this on my own. And then like the next year I got an agent and sold a book. So for me, an MFA didn't work out. I really would have loved that time to have gone to school just to write and read and just spend that time working on craft.
Right.
I just have
in other words, you don't need it. In other words, you don't need it, but if you do get one, you'll get access to amazing teachers like you. You teach an MFA program, right?
Thank you. Yeah. So I teach at Hamlin, and it's been really interesting. First of all, going into there as a teacher and being like, I don't actually have an MFA, so are you going to listen to me? But the students are wonderful. Like, they're so wonderful and so receptive and just really open to feedback and really appreciative of us taking our time to kind of help them hone their craft. So being there, though, I will say, is like being in an MFA program. Like, it's low res. So we go twice a year. We go in usually January and July, and it's like 10 days of just like immersive MFA program, like, you know, readings, lectures, just everything. And it is so wonderful. So I kind of feel like I'm getting one now in a way.
Wow, that's cool. You know, and that's the thing. It's like, we're always learning. Like, we are still always learning.
Always.
Like, I learned so much in writing Parachutes, that whole dual POV thing, which I'll never do again. Which I won't say I'll never do again, but I'll be like, it would have to be a really compelling reason for me to do that to myself. But I learned a lot from it. You know, we're always growing as writers, and that's what the show is all about. So what are your top 3 tips for people who are starting out?
Ooh, okay. I would say, so I found this really interesting, I think it was on a podcast. I can never remember where I hear or read stuff, but someone was saying that you should compare yourself to people who are far ahead of you instead of like your peers, to try to like, you should always be challenging yourself to be like as good as the best. And I don't, they said it much more eloquently than I did. I can't even remember who said it, but I kind of agree. Like, strive for the best. I think a lot of my colleagues are the best, so that can kind of get murky. But, you know, I'm always kind of competing with people who are far ahead of me. I want to be that good. So I would just say strive to be the best that you can be. Never just like settle for what you think you could be. Like, you can always be better, I think. Like you said, we're always working on our craft. We're always trying to improve. This sounds kind of cliched, but I always say don't give up, because really I almost did give up right before I got my agent. So because that was my 4th book, I was like, oh my God, like, if this doesn't work out, like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. It's the best thing I've ever written. And then it worked out. So I would have been really upset if I had quit before I had queried the one agent who wanted my book, and then sent it to the one editor who wanted my book, and then just set me on this career path that I never could have imagined. My 3rd piece of advice is to keep your eyes on your own paper.
That's great advice. It's such important advice, because otherwise, for our mental health, I mean, I don't know about you, but it is like, it's tough. It's tough. And you know what? Sometimes I feel like, I don't want to say this because it sounds weird, but I feel like it almost is like high school. And like
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we're always just like, oh, you got invited to that thing, but I didn't. And like, but you know, all those cool people are hanging out, and they seem to be really good friends on Instagram Live.
I know, right? You got that award, but like, I didn't, you know, it's like, you got queen, but I didn't. It's so much, and it can just be so distracting. And it's something that, honestly, like, you know, my first book came out 6 years ago, and I still have to remind myself of that, and still have to say, shut out the noise, just do the work. At the end of the day, all that matters is the work. So
and I mean, like, that's really important for kids too. And we have a lot of teenagers watching the show. Like, what do you do when you feel this sense of like, I'm not as good as X person, or I'm not as popular as Y person? What kind of advice should we be giving teens who are dealing with somewhat similar anxiety?
Right. And I think that's really tough, because you know, people would say it at the time, like, just be yourself. And you're like, yeah, but like myself isn't necessarily what's like popular or hot right now, you know?
Yeah.
Especially like for you and I think growing up feeling different, you can feel really,
Yeah.
really like being yourself is not an option.
Yeah.
That
It
is
took me a long time to finally
right.
realize that the weird me is cool.
Yes,
Like, I think
yes.
it's cool.
Oh my gosh, I know. And like all the like people who were considered like nerdy or like geeks when I was growing up, like this is their time. So like
This is their time. Like, if it's any
right,
time,
like
it's now, guys.
superheroes, like everything. But really, I just feel like the people who are the most themselves are the ones who are going to get through life kind of the best. And for me, I realize I'm exactly the same person as I was. Like, I was hanging out with a friend a few years ago, and she found like these notes that we were writing to each other in elementary school, and we were like Mia's age in front desk, like 9 or 10. And I was like, wow, I was literally exactly the same person, then like sarcastic.
That is so cute.
Like
That
funny,
is so
like,
cute.
it was exactly the same. So I'm like, you know, there were years where it was really hard to feel like being myself was who I should be.
Yeah.
But looking back, that was always when things worked out the best, was when I just didn't try to conform to be anybody else but myself.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I think that we should just, you know, like you're saying, look, you know, eyes on your own page. Don't be in such a rush to get everything. And then this applies to teenagers in high school too. Like, don't be in such a rush to get everything that you think you want, because even if you get it, like, it might not necessarily make you happy. What makes you happy is like the right now, enjoying the moment, I think.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
such great advice.
Right? Like, I worked so hard on getting whatever it is, and then once you get it, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. But then what I really enjoy is still sitting in front of my computer, writing down the words, you know, because that's really what makes me happy at the end of the day.
It's so true.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Show your books so that we can like show everybody to go and order the book. It's available on it's available everywhere. It's available in indie bookstores. Is there a particular indie bookstore that you think that people should order from?
Yeah, if you can order from Skylight Books in Los Angeles, normally I would just go in and sign books for them. So they're not able to do signed books right now, but I believe they're able to order from their distributor, who can then ship the books. But really so Skylight Books in Los Angeles would be great, but any independent bookstore that you can support right now would be wonderful. Please, please support your indies.
Please support your indies. And are we going to get more middle grade books from you?
We are. It's not announced yet. I'm hoping like very soon that we can talk about it, but I have another book coming out next year that I am currently working on, or supposed to be working on, and I am so excited. It's another dual POV. Like, what are
oh my God. Brandy!
I know what's happening. But I'm so excited. I cannot wait to talk about it more.
That's so cool. That's so great. I'm so excited for all the books that we're going to get from you and from me in the world soon. I love you. I'm such a fan. I'm so glad that we had this chance to connect virtually.
Me too.
And I can't wait to see you in person after COVID in real life, when we're allowed to hug each other.
It will happen. I know it's going to happen.
It will happen. It will happen. We just have to hang in there a little bit longer.
Yes, we can
but
do
it's
it.
Been such a pleasure. And
Thank
I hope you guys
so
all
much.
enjoyed that. Please support Brandy and her books, and please support Parachutes, which nearly killed me. And I will see you guys back here on Friday. And yeah, stay safe, stay inside, you guys. I'm hoping that there's going to be, you know, good positive news on the vaccine or something soon. So bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.